Welcome to our first learning moment to be delivered as part of our committee-sponsored project course. We talked about this last term that basically there's just too much to cover to fit in one term. And so these learning moments are designed specifically to be of use to you in the different projects that you're doing. Right. And so this is a very common requirement in almost all applications, the concept of a master detail page, right? As I mentioned, like order and order details, artists and artworks, patient appointments, you name it. Master detail pages are everywhere. I mean, one of the most common business-oriented ones is this itself, right? The idea of an invoice and then down after the customer information, maybe how the bill is going to be paid, etc. Below that is a table, right? Listing all the items being ordered with quantities and individual prices, and then calculations being done on the total and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is a very, very necessary and common type of UI design to implement. One of the complaints of the MVC application is it's very siloed in individual controllers focusing on one entity at a time. Now, we have seen that we can get around that quite easily. Just thinking about the details view, okay, for any parent object, we can always show related child objects. And I've got an example of that running right now that you'll look and see should be very familiar to you. Okay, so here's our job bank from last term, right? So here I'm on the list of applicants, and if I just go to the details for Barney here and bring it up, then this is just the applicant's details page, right? The ID of this particular applicant is 128, but what we're seeing down below is underneath the actual details for the applicant, we're seeing related information. Here are the documents, right, that were uploaded in relation to this particular applicant, right, with their descriptions and so on. And here's a list of all the applications that Barney, okay, Barney Blogs has made here, right? He applied to the divorce lawyer, closing on such and so on and so forth, right? So this is related data. So the truth is, this is an actual example of a master detail page. And we did this last term. So what's the big deal? Well, there's just a bit more to it than that. Let's just stop running this for a second, and we're going to have a look at the code. All right, just to refresh ourselves in. So here's the applicant's controller, the details action, right? So basically what we have here is a big link query with lots of includes. We're including all that related information, right? All the applicant documents, all of the applications, okay, including the posting. So we have the full name of the position and so on, including the position, the posting, and so, all that stuff, right? So we have all this data being included in the one record set for a single applicant. And that's why it's easy then to just show and list all that information on the screen. Now, just a point, if you didn't have these nice includes, these nice referential integrity relationships with navigation properties built in, you can do separate queries to bring up related information related to one particular master record, and it can just be thrown into view data, right? And the view data can provide it to the view, and you can loop through it that way as well. So there's multiple ways to get this related information into the view. Let's just have a quick look at the view. All right, so here's our details view. So at the top, we have that normal information, the photo of the applicant. Here's all the first name, middle name, last name, all the basic information about the applicant, broken down in a couple columns to take more advantage of the width of the screen, right, when it's available. Okay. And then below that, we're going to then show by looping through all the documents, right? We're just making a little table here to show the file name and the description of all the documents and carrying on. But notice we're just going through, right? Our for each loop here is the model, which is the one applicant documents, that built-in collection that's inside the model itself. Same thing down here. Our for each is going through all the applications, right? Showing the posting summary for each one. So because all the data is included, right, we can easily do this. If you had it in view data instead, then looping instead of to the model, you'd actually just get the data from the view data itself, right? Okay, so that's a simple implementation of a master detail record. But let me draw your attention to the very top. The model of this strongly typed view is this one object, the master object, in our case, the applicant. Well, we've seen before how powerful the approach is that we've been doing to sorting, filtering, paging, etc., right? But that is all based on uh, an IEnumerable collection of the model, right? The model for the view. And that's how it works. That's why it works so easily as well. So the trouble is you only get one model for the entire view. It can be a collection, right, or a single object, but you just get one model for the view. Other than that, you're working with view data, which is okay in some circumstances. But the nice approach we've been doing for sorting, filtering, and paging, okay, works with that model, that collection. So the problem is, if the parent object is the model, what if we want to do this nice approach we have to sorting, filtering, and paging for a large collection of related child records? It makes it very awkward. So yes, we've done master detail pages already, but I want to show you an alternate approach. This is the approach I would take if you have a potentially large number of related child objects and it's important or necessary to do sorting, filtering, and or paging on that child collection, right? So that's our job, right? Look at this alternate way to do it instead of the simple, obvious one we have done in the past. Now, one of the tricky things we're going to come up with, and I make mention it here, is, hey, if the strongly typed model for the view is not the parent record or the parent object, if we're just going to pass this in view data, how can we take advantage? Because right now the model, we get all the model metadata, right? So that's where we can just do things like display for and so on and label for. And it's smart enough to know and get display names and apply proper formatting as defined in our annotations on properties of the model class and so on. Well, that happens because it has the full model in a strongly typed view. Data going into view data doesn't get the same benefit, right? So instead of us manually writing code to format dates in a certain way and so on, though, we still can, and I'll show you the trick, to still get in and access all the metadata of the class itself, even without it being the actual strongly typed model of the view. Okay, so what have I done to get ready? Well, I do need a little JPEG just for when I don't have a picture. I think the layout looks better if you can substitute a blank picture. And I have a code file. Now, it's a pretty big code file, and we'll go through it in probably several stages as we build the whole thing, right? So I've downloaded that. You can quickly see it here. There's lots of code in it. Okay, and we'll take it a step at a time. Now, the other thing I'm going to need, and of course I've done this already, is in here are our solutions from last term. So what I was running a moment ago are, I didn't mean to download it again, our job bank solution, right? That was the final version that we did last term, and that's what I was running to show you that example of a master detail page. So I've also downloaded our last version of our medical office, and that's the one I'm going to use with my copy paste file. And what we're going to do is set up, because potentially over time there might be quite a long record of appointments for a patient, right? So our patient details really shouldn't focus as the model for the page on the patient, but actually on the collection of appointments, right, for the patient. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to stop and start the recording just to help break it up.